How are you doing? It's so good to see you. Thank you, Zaha. Zaha looks stunning and she's doing incredible. Let's give her a round of applause. She's doing fantastic. Before I get excited and share stories, let me invite my panelists and they'll just join me. And then I'll officially introduce us all. First, we have Professor Winnie V. Mitula, Chair, UNESCO Unit Win. Do we have Professor Winnie? I'll just say your names and you can give them a round of applause as they make their way and sit next to me. Thank you, Professor. Karibu, you may sit here. Nerima Wako Ojiwa, right? ED Siasa Place. Then we have Ninabina Devi, Regional Policy Consultant of IGAD. Thank you very much. Karibu Sana. And finally, we have Isabel Anani, UNICEF Nigeria Young Influencer, member Nigeria's Technical Working Group on Adolescent Health. But they'll each say a little bit more about themselves. And just as they settle in, by introduction, I know Zaha already said it, but Janet Mbogwa, Founder Executive Director in Nuadada. I also wear so many other hats. I'm an amplifier. I'm passionate about advocacy. Co-host of Fixing the Nation. How many fixers do we have here? Thank you. Every morning, 6 to 10 a.m. on NTV, Nation FM, and across our digital platforms with the incredible Mariam Bishar and Eric Latif, a member of the Nation Media Group. And just very excited to be here. What I'll do is, as I open the conversation, my incredible panelists will just say a little bit more about who they are, and I appreciate that there's so many other sessions, so we'll also try and keep the conversation quick and moving, right? I have a bit of an icebreaker for everyone in the room. And first of all, kudos to the brilliant, spontaneous, and all the other speakers. I know we have our Group CEO and COO here who we really appreciate. I don't know, Beijing at 30, I'm trying to figure out if I'm fired up or tired, and I think I'm gonna ask you all that question. But for everyone here, if you can just, for like a few seconds, have a quick conversation with the person around you, just one word that describes how you feel 30 years into Beijing. Are you feeling hopeful? Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling happy? Are you feeling energized? Just quick banter, just a word. You can turn to your neighbor. I didn't want to start with turn to your neighbor, but turn to your neighbor and just share a word. Hopeful? Are you determined? Okay. All right, I can see a lot of smiling. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. By show of hands, are we hopeful? By show of hands, are we determined? Are we frustrated? Wow. Are we fired up? Okay, frustrated and determined has come up. And I think that will be my segue to just start off this conversation, which is, again, just a little bit about what you do, and then just give me a word. How are you feeling 30 years in? This is an intergenerational fireside chat. We've got a great group of you who can speak from perspective of 30 years before, and some who are really coming up and finding their agency. Professor, let's start with you as we go down. A little bit about yourself and a word to describe how you feel.
Thank you very much. I feel very...
Let me give you my mic, I think. Yeah. There you go.
Let me just repeat. I'm saying I feel very excited because I'm not coming from Beijing. I'm a pre-Beijing. So the Nairobi forward-looking strategy that Maria talked about, we were the young people that were doing master students, helping senior ladies, pack up what needs to be done, looking forward. So coming all the way from that made me very excited that I was part of Beijing because I contributed in one way or the other. And basically, I am based at the University of Nairobi. I'm a teacher, about to retire, so I'm really in the old generation, but still feeling very young, especially when I sit with Gen Zs around here. So I've come a long way with this, effort of just ensuring that I'm in space. And that the hearings this morning were really good. The discussions, right from the executive director of Nation to Maria to Dube, is all telling about us that there is a deficit. There is a deficit. And in statistics, since we are scholars, we always have to go back to statistics. We are told we are only making a 0.2 movement. So we need to really accelerate. I'm praying for the time we will be making a 1% movement towards getting to the hilt. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Nerima?
Good. I don't even know the time. It's still morning. Hello, everyone. My name is Nerima. I work with Siasa Place. It's a youth organization. It's such an honor to be here and to be in front of such powerful, powerful women. Professor, I love seeing you and what you've done, especially with your small body. It gives me so much confidence. And all the professors in the room, Madam Zipporah, we really appreciate what you've done. It's because of your efforts we are here today. I can run a youth organization that works in 17 counties, works with thousands of young people, and look like this and feel confident and brave. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ninabina Devi. I'm from Tanzania. I am part of the youth group from Family Planning 2030. And I'm happy to say I'm 30, which means when the Beijing was happening, that was the year I was born. So I'm looking forward to the next 30 years of being part of it. And I'm here because it happened. I'm here because the mothers and women that raised me and the fellow 1995 and after, that's why we're here, because they made sure we were able to get tables like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good midday, I believe, everyone. My name is Isabel. I am a girl advocate for gender equality with Stand With the Girl initiative, which, fun fact, is a commitment maker for FP 2030. I am a UNICEF Young Influencer and youngest person on this beautiful panel. So when Beijing was happening, I don't think my parents had even met at the time. So, yes, I'm not even 18 yet, so, you know.
Wow.
But I'm really excited for this conversation because Beijing, especially with the work I do, Beijing heavily influences the decisions I make, the people I get to talk to, the policies and, you know, all the big spaces. Most times they refer back to Beijing, Beijing, Beijing. At first I was like, what's Beijing? And, you know, it's such an important milestone for women all over the world, especially here in Africa. And I'm so excited that we get to have this conversation with people who have been in the game. Professor is pre, Nina is middle, and I'm after Beijing, you know? So this is so excited to be here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's incredible. You're not 18 yet?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Let me process that for a minute. I think it's incredible, and I think I'll start with you as we make our way around the panel. Then what was it that made you feel like this conversation is important? You know, you're young, you're a student, right? You're an advocate. So what is it that made you wake up one day and say, you know what, even though I'm still young and pursuing my dreams, there's a gap. There's a gap in how we reflect on Beijing. There's a gap in how we're addressing gender equality. What was that moment, and why is it so important for you?
I think when I first woke up to the realization that things need to change, it was 5 years ago, I was 12. I don't know if my math is correct, I'm so sorry. I was 12 years old and I had lived in northern Nigeria my entire life. So I had seen so many women who, you know, could not go to school. They were being constantly threatened. So many of my peers who were being threatened with, oh, if you don't behave yourself, I'm going to send you back to your village, and you know what's going to happen in your village. They're going to send you to one Alaji, so you marry him. People who were old enough to be their grandfathers, mind you. And I realized that something needed to be done. There was a lot of humanitarian crisis in the north at the time, and it affected everybody directly. So and then it wasn't just, people who I didn't really have close contact to. It was people in my school who, whenever I said, I really think I want to do engineering, they'll say, no, do nursing, no, do this, do you know Nigerians, we have a thing for theatrics, for very dramatic people. So they would always say, no, do nursing, do theater arts, do this, do that. And then I woke up to the realization that I am not going to be told what to do by people who are not me. Simply is not going to happen. And from there, I started doing spoken word. I was very passionate about spoken word when I was younger. And a lot of my spoken word was heavily influenced by the fact that a speaker said girls can, girls will, and girls are doing. So girls can, but how many people have opened their eyes to the realization that girls actually can? Mm-hmm. So that was something I really wanted to highlight in my spoken word. And, from there, the journey just blossomed. So I would say, in a nutshell, it was a combination of all the experiences that I had growing up in the north, all the people I saw from my peer groups, down to, generations above me who said, no, don't do this, you must do this. And I just didn't feel like it was proper.
Yeah, you didn't think it was for you. Yes. Thank you for speaking to that. And I think at some point I would love to ask Professor how to sustain the momentum, right? I heard some people shouting, I'm frustrated. So how do we encourage the Isabels to keep that, knowing that this is endless? But we'll come to you in just a moment. Nina, I'm also just listening to what Isabel is saying. The fact that she's speaking to matters that 5 years ago are still very much a reality. Girls being told, you're going to get married, I'm going to send you out of school. Where do you think, it's a big word, but where do you think we failed? That you're saying, yes, 30 years ago I was born, but is there a part of you that's like, by now I didn't think that the Isabels would still have to be fighting the same fights that even when I was born, I grew up hearing? Where do you think the failure came in?
Well,
it's a big word.
It's a big word.
Well, fail forward because we're still here, but in a sense the gap still exists. Why?
So I'll stick to the gap part, not the fail part. And I think the gap is quite open and it's quite inside this room. It's because in some places, in some cases, there have been rooms and places where things have been talked about, such as this. And then every time we leave these rooms, we leave what we talked about in these rooms. And just few of us continue with what we said we're going to do in such rooms and spaces. And I think that's where we fail. And that's where the gap is because we talk about it, but then we don't make choices of continuing talking about it, and we leave it in the tables that we fought so hard to make. And that is because, and that could mean that's where we're missing the part. That's where we're failing. It's because there's only few of us, or few of them, or few of you. Maybe sometimes I'm the reason why we fail. It's because I get an opportunity to talk, and I don't talk, I don't communicate, I don't share the information. And I'll drop it down to young people. We are the best, and I can speak for young people. We are the best at communicating to one another. We have different means. We have different methodologies that now even the 1995 and above are using, which is a good thing. And to tap into that is now how we will move from the word fail, from the word gap, to the word breach, where Isabel and I can cross to where Professor is and feel we are there, or we are getting there, and we don't need 100 more years.
Okay. That's also very profound. Nerima, Nina was like, no, you can't use the word fail. And I want to extrapolate on that because I recognize why she's saying that. It's not to discredit how much has been done, but I guess it's to speak to the persistent gap. So just again, reflecting on what Isabel and Nina have said, is there a part of you that would recognize fail or gap? Or more of it, is it you're saying, no, I recognize wins. Which one is it for you?
That's a tough question. It's a mixture. There's nothing that's black or white. There's a lot of gray. So even as we're here, there's a lot of been development even in our constitution as far as affirmative action goes, or if we even look at women in political leadership, the numbers are still low, but we're seeing very small increments because there's an importance of people understanding why this is important. There's this level of people knowing it's important, but understanding it is different because it means that it brings change to the community. Sometimes I do feel let down by representatives, especially last year when we had, massive protests around end femicide or massive protests around finance bill and some of the discussions in Bunge. We've seen a lot of issues happening, and sometimes we see the caucuses are silent, and we haven't seen a lot of mobilizing and organizing organically in that front. But it's not to say that it's a complete failure. It's difficult. We've also seen a lot of young women coming to the fore, but we also have to understand that we manage and lead in a very different space. When I came up to this stage and we were talking about how our days started early in the morning, my first meeting was at 7 a.m. That's why I'm not sure what time it is right now. And I'm getting a text message and it's my nanny saying, we need spaghetti now because my son is gonna be upset at lunchtime. So we are also balancing so many other things. So even when we talk about the follow through, mentorship, it's very difficult even to have women mentor women just because our time scales are very, very different. And that's also something that I struggle with personally.
Well said. That's relatable. Definitely something that I'm firmly in that whole spectrum of balance and trying to figure it out. So I think that's a very important aspect to recognize is the balance. I mean, I know that word is very polarizing. When people are like, what's your work-life balance? I don't know that you ever get one. I think sometimes people say you can have everything you want, but not at the same time. And I think I've made peace with that. Professor, I'm wondering what has stood out for you from just hearing the reflections from Nerima and Nina and Isabel, and also speaking to that word, fail, and balancing it out with the wins. But first, what is it that stood out in terms of what it is we're still grappling with?
I think they are quite right that it's not an obvious situation where you will see gains. And even if you look at statistics, the idea that we average, when we say we made 69% of the gap globally, then when you segregate it down to countries, regions, to locations, to household, then you will find some that are really almost at or maybe 22%. So there is where we begin then to say, I agree, concur that you balance. Balance is the issue. For example, if you look at what we've heard since morning about how to do it, that what we need to do from even the keynote speech, everybody would be wondering, where have I not failed? But I don't think we are all coming out to contribute. This is one thing. But the question is, why are we all not coming out to make our contributions as women? Again, there are so many things. In some context, you have people where the legal provisions are not good. So they can't move beyond that. And there are areas where the institutions, whether it's the family institution or whether it's an organizational institution, is not set. We heard in the morning from the Nation media that they are at almost 33%. That's a score, and that's what we are looking for. So can each and every entity from the household, institutions that we have, whether they are schools, parastatals, or organizations, come up and say, we have done it in our institution. I do remember very passionately as a young person when we were wondering why civil aviation did not have women. And you could sit in those planes and down the hangar is all women, men. Today, if you do look carefully, they're there. But the civil aviation in Kenya made a very deliberate attempt. They opened space where they would only interview women. This is very unique to fill the gap. So when you have when you are not balanced and you need to fill the deficit, what do? We can take affirmative action. We've had it in our legal provisions. But what is that provision doing for us? We are still not at 33%. Namibia has done it. Rwanda has done it. Senegal has done it. South Africa is about there or done it. So what in Kenya, what questions are we asking as Kenyans that to date, even after going to court, we are still having that deficit? It's quite a shame, but the good thing is that we are advancing. We are making mileage. If you look at where we were when the FIBIA CEOs, God rest her soul, we just sent away the other day, when a CEO brought the affirmative action bill, things were so different. So when my young, they could be my daughters, and when they talk, I know where they're coming from. The orientation is very different. So the question today, what is it that we need to do? For example, the digital space, which they are occupying and really leveraging on. And we did see it in last year's occasion. It was not men on our screens, fighting for rights, because that was a fight for rights. We saw men, women, girls, children. We saw every face there, almost at equal level. And I hope this is going to be replicated in 2027. That coming out that we saw 2024 will be replicated in trying to vie, trying to occupy political spaces, will be replicated in organizations where women are not standing out.
Yeah, especially the part about participation, because yes. I think the biggest question people have asked is how do you move that energy from agitating to participating? Exactly. But it's not just that. When the Next Year Summit was being put together and we were reading the script this morning on the show, we talked about slaying the dragon of patriarchy. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I see it as a dragon that, you slay the head and another head pops up. Mm-hmm. You slay the head, 3 heads pop up. Because I think patriarchy is evolving. Mm-hmm. And I'm in a very interesting space right now where I'm like, I want to celebrate wins, but I'm also cognizant of some of the anti-gender rhetoric that is also really becoming quote unquote loud. And I just want us to have a conversation about that, and it's a conversation so you can all weigh in. Mm. How do we stay ahead of the anti-gender rhetoric? I also get the sense that somewhere along the way, the bullies became louder, right? The bullies strategized, carefully, resourced, came together, and before we knew it, in so many places, gains have rolled back. You've got countries and places in the US that are rolling back on whether it's on SRH, whatever it is, you just get a sense that, oh my gosh, all these gains are rolling back. So what happened that we woke up and as much as we've made all these gains that have allowed us to all sit in this room, we're also up against the dragon whose head keeps popping up. What do you think it is? Nina, does anything come to mind in terms of this dragon head that just keeps popping up? And how do we stay ahead of it? And then Isabel, Nerima, and Professor, you can weigh in. But what do you think we need to do to stay ahead of it?
I'd speak on a point of girls and young women as what we need to, and I'd love for everyone to hear that as well. One word that I've used for the past 10 years is the choice. For young women, I and others had a choice. We were given information and we got the choice to choose what we would want. And I think that would be part of why every time we cut, the dragon grows up, is because in so many spaces, still women cannot choose. They cannot choose when they're in universities. They cannot choose when they're in their villages. They cannot choose when they're in secondary school. And when I'm talking about choosing, I'm talking about SRH. I'm talking about choosing when and how and at what time they would want to, have children. And that has helped so many women in this room that have raised us, that have been in this conversation, to be able to say, this year, I would continue growing. I would raise the community. As Professor said, in 1995, when they were helping out women to speak, is because they had that choice, and they were able to be represented. So I believe a choice for women to choose when and at what time, at particular ages that we have, and at particular choices that we are given to, would help us. And that also brings us to why we have the Made Possible for Family Planning campaign. It's because now we're moving out, we're cutting one of the dragon is showing up. And we are saying, you know what, we're catching up with you. Mm-hmm. We're catching up with you because we are going to stand together and make it possible. And make it possible for the younger generation to say, I'm able to wait until I have done my doctorate to have a child. Or I'm able to go and travel and represent my country and represent the choices that I want until this time. So to me, it's one word: choice.
Choice, that's the word. The word is choice. So that's why we stay ahead. Isabel, does any of that speak to you? And how do you think we need to stay ahead of every time that there's pushback on the gains that women and girls are making?
So I would say, okay, so October 2024, I got to lead parliament. So I was Speaker of House of Representatives for a day. And when I was crafting my speech, something that I kept thinking of was, what is one thing that I want everybody in parliament, all the members, to remember? And the thing that I kept thinking about was opportunity. So that's my word, opportunity. Because there was a lot of pressure, because being the first, it was the first time it had ever been done in Nigeria. And there was a lot of pressure because it needed to be continued. I didn't want it to just be a one-hit wonder or, we do it for International Day of the Girl Child. We're not doing it again, ever. I wanted it to be something that would be continued. So I thought about opportunity. And I'm not just putting girls in the space just because, it's a head count. How many girls are here? 70. Okay, we've done a good job. I'm saying giving them the opportunity, so I do engineering as well. And that's why it's very personal to me, because in my school, we're just 5 girls in engineering. And because we're just 5 girls, there's a lot of opportunity that is spearheaded by the boys. Whenever there's something, they're not looking at, I'm not their first choice, neither am I probably their second. They're looking at, there's a boy first, just because of the numbers. Not necessarily because, he has this and that. So I'm not even saying give girls the opportunity just because they're girls. Give them the opportunity because girls have capacity. There's this thing where women have to work twice as hard, and it's very unfortunate that a lot of the time, especially here in Africa, we get to learn it faster. We get to learn that, as girls, we have to work twice as hard as our male counterparts, right from when you're in primary school, So whenever the dragon, as you refer to it, wants to come up, I think we as Africans should remember that if we give 3 girls opportunity, women are change makers. Women are, they can multitask. They would know how to spearhead every single thing. They would know how to, bring it back to par. So it's not just we're saying this isn't happening. Because women don't have funds. Women are not being in spaces where they should be heard. They're seen, but they're not heard. And it's very unfortunate because we're in the big 2025, So I think whenever the dragon wants to come up, we should remember that we should give a woman the opportunity. When you see something happening, allow a girl to lead it. And I promise you would not regret it.
Okay, wow. So we've heard choice, we've heard opportunity. Let me bring it back to you, Nerima, how to stay ahead of the dragons whose heads keep coming up. And maybe if you can integrate the element of male allyship, because you work in a youth space where men and women are championing young voices. But what do you think we need to do to stay ahead?
We are, because there's an article that was written in The Nation, actually, by a journalist, Siundu, and he was quoting Dennis Galava. The title of that article is Gen Z are changing the playbook of power, because he was referencing the protests that started last year and this year. And what that study shows is that the protest movements from the last 2 years, it's actually young feminists who are leading it. And this is how I think we are already doing it. The approach why people are like, why is this movement leaderless? Actually, it's horizontal leadership. So there are several leaders, and patriarchy is used to having one leader pop up, this hierarchy that everyone can sort of identify and pick up. And so that's why they're confused. And even when you think about the activists that, came out during this period, it's the young men who were quickly dismantled or separated. The young women have remained in the movement, which is also very fascinating for me to see. And even something we've done very, very recently is we've done a bail campaign where over 200 youth have been arrested in protests. Even this year, there are about 400 still going through cases. And we fundraised for their bail. They're still going through court. So we've managed to fundraise almost 3 million shillings online. All of this is online and paying bail for people that we've never met. So this is care-based organizing, where you are caring for somebody because they are vulnerable, because they're in need. So we are already shifting how patriarchy works when it comes to power. So for me, I'm living in a very exciting moment because we actually see that we are seeing our power and maneuvering around it, and they don't know how to react to us. They are confused, and they keep wondering, are they going to shift to political power? And I can confirm here, yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Care-based organizing, choice, opportunity. Let's remember these words. I think they're very critical to how we stay ahead. Professor, how did you stay ahead? How did you all stay ahead of the I mean, you managed to do Beijing in 1995. Definitely you were able to get ahead of the dragon. But how do you think we need to stay ahead of it?
I think we've stayed ahead of leveraging. Mics don't want me at all.
Okay, it's working. That's okay now.
Yeah, I think this dragon, first of all, the dragon has to be hit by everybody. The dragon, when it pops up, is not just the role of the woman, but everybody has to run to hit the dragon. But to hit that dragon, you have to know the issues. So our 12 Beijing commitments, which have been translated into policies, legislations, and procedures, we must be aware of it. And that's where the nation media and the media comes in. So alone, it cannot be done. And her highlight is great, how they are doing it, this care-based. And it is really care-based. I've contributed sometimes to them. The Morara ones, I contributed to them. When I see them running, I say, well, let me throw some 1,000 there. It will help somebody. We never did that, but now you have an opportunity of digital space. The issue of choice and opportunities, very critical, because you cannot make a choice or you cannot exploit opportunity without having what it takes to do so. That's why education, where I belong, is very central. Education, opportunities, and access to resources. Those, even if you are a strong woman who wants to keep popping up in spite of the dragon, they'll not pop. And that's why today we talk about our sisters who are at the lower end. They don't have enough education due to many, many reasons, and they don't have opportunities. And for those that have opportunities like women, we know they are toiling in the informal sector, and we know how the informal sector looks like. Very complex, and you don't get so much resources. So dealing with this issue of the dragon popping up and we push on cannot be done the same way we did it. We did it without the digital media. We did it with less, campaigns. We did it without the 12 commitments that the world has made and translated it into policies and procedures. That was not there. So there is now an enabling environment, but still we are making 0.2% move. So what is not happening? I think going forward, the movements like what I'm hearing from the young people is the way to go. Because if we rely on the state may not support us. That's, now people are behind bars. What do? Join hands. So for the women and the 12 commitments that we have to still be in those famous movements that honorable ladies like my senior Kitoni here, Maria Zomo, and many others who are here walked through. They were together. They had some unionism that made them move that difficult situation without even much media. They were able to move in the 80s and take us to 85 and to Beijing. So at least movements are necessary, even today. And that's why I don't want to leave the concept of male outside this equation. And that's why now, even if you look at the Kenyan policy, they've added another pillar to gender pillars and coordination. Males must be part of this debate. We are not going to succeed if we don't have both gender walking the path. And I'm glad we are many here, but not as many. Mm-hmm. So here again, we have failed the two-third. If I look around, I don't think we qualify. So the males might start pushing us because it might look like we are talking to ourselves alone, and we must bring on board the male gender to help us hit the dragon as I began.
I'm just about to hand the program back to Zaha, so we're out of time. But it's very enriching, I think, what I'm hearing. So education, care-based organizing, opportunity and choice, I'll keep those. It was education, the trajectory, the policy shift that kind of, from Beijing, would you say, that shifted everything, very briefly?
I think no, not a single factor has shifted, but we have done a lot on education and health. If you look at statistics, we have concentrated on education and health, and I like it. Because really, if you are not healthy and you do not have the knowledge and the education, you can't move, you can't work. So those two seem to be really key pillars, education and health.
We're now looking 30 years ahead, Professor. What would you want to say to Isabel to sustain momentum for the next 30 years? And we'll also hear very quick parting shots from Nerima and Nina. But yeah, talk to Isabel about sustaining.
One thing that I want to tell you is that you have to walk along something or somebody. You have to do it alone. Because there is an impression coming that if you are young, you can do things alone. I don't think it's right. You can't do it alone. You will walk along either yourselves or either the policy pillars or some strong institutions. You will walk along something. And I'm hoping that you have identified what you are walking alongside, because it's not an easy fight, and we are good. You're good that you are cracking it out, but there is need to jointly, collectively work together. And of course, with digital space, we can now reach each other, and my sister and my young daughter there in Nigeria, we can be talking and feeling like we are together. Thank you.
All right, co-leadership. Co-leadership. Nerima, Nina, how do you feel about what she said, speaking about leading? Generations need to work together. I think that's what you've alluded to, work also with policymakers. Your parting shot as you also reflect on what Professor has said to Isabel.
I agree. I believe there's a saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I agree. And I just want to emphasize on the use of poetry and art to retell our stories, to recenter, to energize, to teach. The work that spontaneous or artists do, we cannot minimize. We need to raise enough women to be on platforms to preach through music, theater, arts, so that we internalize. Because right now we are being bombarded by negativity on femininity. And that's what's also going to shift our generation for the better. And I am a millennial.
So you're the ones who say when I was Gen Z. I'm Gen Z. Nina.
I'm just happy she said that. I'm really happy you said that. Two things. I believe we are at the right time, at the right place, where there's information through media, through these wonderful platforms, and where there's choice and better health for women, for young women, for boys and girls, then we are far beyond what we can even see right now. We're far beyond. We're here because we're healthy. We're here because we made a choice to say, as a mother, I will step out and go to Nairobi and speak. So I believe we are at the right space. We just need to share the right information, share with young people the right information, give them the choice to choose the right path. and walk along with them. Don't let them walk alone. Don't let them stand alone, because if you let us stand alone, we would stand alone. But if you walk with us alongside, then we would be here. And that's why we are here.
Because we walked together. Thank you.
Because we walked together.
In a few seconds, Isabel, I didn't give you a chance to respond. What Professor said, is it something that, what would you also want to say to her, to the moms who came before us?
When I was at the Speaker Hub this morning with Professor, she said, oh, you're the Gen Z. You know, there are some millennials that are saying that they're Gen Z. And it really resonated with me that older generations, they are informed. Yes, maybe they don't know how to navigate Instagram as well as I do, but they're informed. So to Professor, and all the older, the pre-Beijing people here, I would like to say that give young people the space to do things. I know, yes, it's not how it was in your time, but at the same time, social media is changing things. I wouldn't be here if not for social media, you know, and give them the opportunity to really do things. You know, sometimes you say, oh, I don't want them to make the mistake. Allow them to make the mistake. They will learn. That's the thing with Gen Zs, us. We don't learn from mistakes. Our ego is this high. I promise you. So tell them, encourage them. Yes, it's not how it was done in your time. And yes, we still have to preserve our African values. But at the same time, things are changing. And Africa is changing constantly. It's not the same thing as it was in 1980. So really give them the opportunity to change the continent and own their spaces. What I'll say to Professor and all the lovely women here.
That's amazing. So can the room say the words with me? Say opportunity. Say choice. Say care-based organizing. And I believe yours was summed up in education as well. So say education. And then, as I think Nina said, we don't leave this room and not share this with other people, because sometimes it's an echo chamber, right? So how are we turning the next Her Summit into the next platform that continues to have these conversations and actually make change? It's been an absolute honor sharing the stage with Isabel, Nina, Nerima, and Professor. And I know that we're going to hand the program back to Zaha. Thank you as well to the Nation Media Group for this incredible platform. And yeah, I guess happy 30th anniversary to Beijing. And let's weigh the wins, let's weigh the losses, but let's just keep moving. I think the next 30 years should look completely different. I'm Janet Bogwa. It's been an absolute honor. I'll be back here tomorrow as well doing another session. But for now, it's back to Zaha, and I'll invite my panelists to leave the stage with me. Thank you, everyone.
Round of applause for Janet.